So thank you all for coming. Tonight we'll hear from 4 Pollinator Pathway leaders who really have done a magnificent job launching their initiatives in their particular areas of the country. They're proud of what they've done, and they're going to talk about what they've brought forth, but they most likely have hit some bumps along the way and done things that they admit they don't want to have a repetition of. So we'll hear both sides of the picture. And first, some directions. We're going to have hopefully a robust Q&A session at the end. And if there's time, maybe someone else has a story that they want to share. That's a possibility too. So please enter your questions as you think of them and as our presenters are talking into the chat. We will kind of compile them, and then after the 4th of our 4 speakers finishes up, we'll announce the questions and call out whoever's question it is, and invite them if they want to turn on their audio and turn on their video and join the conversation that way. So let's get started. I'm going to let each of the speakers talk a little bit about themselves in depth, but just as an introduction, I'll have a little short bio to give you. The first person that we're going to hear from is Michelle Detweiler. And Michelle has worked in 2 towns in southeastern Pennsylvania, Lower Marion and Narberth. And being kind of a Philly girl myself, I'm really so excited that the Pollinator Pathway has gotten down to the Philadelphia suburbs. She is a native plant designer and a naturalist. And Michelle, welcome. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Donna. I'm so glad to be here and be inspired by all the others here and their stories as well. Like you say, we are in part of the northern Piedmont ecoregion in the eastern temperate forest. To give you a sense of where we are, we get about 42 inches of rain a year, and we're in zone 7B. And like Donna mentioned, we are a suburb of the big city of Philadelphia. So this I consider one of our main successes. This is a public native garden at our local library. Before we redid the front landscaping, it looked like this. It was sort of mowed liriope and non-native turf grasses. So we put together a group of local volunteers, including the head librarian that you see there in her red cap. We did a native garden, and now it looks like this. This all happened during COVID. There's our milkweed for the monarchs in the middle there. This is in summer what it looks like. This is what it looks like in the fall, those beautiful native asters, and then right now. And it doubles as a monarch way station, and we find that the double signage, appeals to different people and is a great educational tool for the children's librarian who brings the children out when she reads to them to learn from the garden, and is also, of course, educational for the residents that are walking by to either visit the library or the nearby sports fields. So this is a map of our area, and when we talk about the pathway, we talk about connecting existing big green spaces, so that's what those arrows are, with the goal of connecting all of our spaces, of course, through time. And we have 175 public and private properties on our pathway right now. When we first started, which was in 2020, I looked at the map of the pathway and it looked like this. I happened to take a screenshot at the time because I'd heard a podcast with the author of the Pollinator Victory Garden, and she mentioned the pathway, and so it inspired me to look up the map, and I thought, oh my goodness, Pennsylvania's not included. Let me contact them and see if we can participate. And I know that's happened with so many of us as we hear about it through word of mouth. So that the map looks like this now. Here we are here. And so we're so happy to be helping to connect those wonderful gardens in New York and Connecticut along the eastern seaboard down to Washington, Baltimore and Washington, D.C. And of course, that's our interest, is to participate in helping wildlife across political boundaries. We consider a lot of our successes to do with the partnerships that we've created with local organizations, which I'm sure is common in the pathway. But our local conservancy is hosting the program for us. They sell the pathway signs, and then they use their listserv to get out the message. We also partner with local garden clubs, a very progressive one in our area that does a lot of ecological landscape programs, civic associations, and friends groups for local parks. The Conservancy helps host public education through webinars, and I want to summarize a little bit about what we talk about just for compare and contrast for you all. And the program has really grown quite passively. So a major lesson learned for us is this has been a very easy program because despite our limited time, it's grown naturally just through word of mouth. We do have goals to create, more in-person community and to steward public projects together and just to continue to maintain the introduction of new gardens. This is one of the gardens that was on a pathway tour this summer. The Area Garden Club helped to include a lot of the Pollinator Pathway gardens on its summer tour. And then this is one of the webinars that we did this spring where we encourage the planting of native plants, and we talk about a lot of the issues around that. So I always like to show historical photos of our area to remind people that this was once forest. We live in a remnant oak hickory forest here, but it was cleared for agriculture, as you can see on the left-hand side, and transportation, railroads and roadways, and of course, big private and public developments. So there's a real need to return habitat, which we can do by returning the plants, which is the bottom level of this big biomass pyramid. And we're missing a lot of plants in the landscape, particularly native plants that support the entire rest of the food web. So we're trying to boost those plants. I always mention our really important pollinators, including our native bee species. We have hundreds of those, and our native moth species, which are also very important pollinators. And this is new information for a lot of people, not for you all, but people that are joining the pathway. And of course, the diversity of pollinators out there, including our flies and wasps, including the specialists that really depend on particular species, the leaves of particular species, and the bees that prefer certain pollen species. And so I like to list priority plants for those specialists, both bees and the lepidopteran caterpillars of the butterflies and moths for our area, in case that helps jumpstart the plant list for people locally. The goal, of course, is to support habitat for pollinators with all those wonderful spillover effects for the food chain and the watershed and the climate and so forth. So we emphasize native planting, removing invasive species over time. It's very difficult in our area. We have a very temperate climate, so with a lot of invasive species. We emphasize avoiding pesticides and then leaving winter habitat. So we're providing for all the life stages of the pollinators that we're supporting in our gardens. We do have a sign up for our pathway that goes to a shared Google sheet, although I think that's probably a topic for conversation in terms of how people sign up, because of course you can go through the national website, which is probably the way that we should be doing that. So our local conservancy hosts a page about the pathway on their website, and it shows the map. It has links to the webinars that we've done so people can reference those, and it has a place to order the signs, which we purchase from the national group and then send out to people as they sign up for the pathway if they would like them. I also always like to include tips on how to convert lawn, since that's a somewhat easy way to go. This is an example that we emphasize, which is very sustainable. The homeowner himself flipped this sod over in the fall, piled lots of leaves on top, and let it decompose in place until spring, when it was planted as a garden. And that way you don't have to haul away the sod and so forth. We also show examples of removing grass with sod cutting, and of course all the other ways that you can do lawn conversions, including smothering with arborist wood chips and so forth. These are just amazing people over the last 100 years that have inspired us to continue to do more in terms of natural landscaping. The early female botanists who said, hey, let's return the beautiful native plants to our houses. How beautiful can that be? Lady Bird Johnson, who reminds us how beautiful wildflowers are regardless of where you are, and how they add that sense of place and beauty. Landscape architects like Daryl Morrison, who've encouraged natural landscaping. And of course, Doug Tallamy, who's inspired us all by saying, hey, it really matters what plants you put back. Insects depend on certain plants. I also like to emphasize looking at natural plant communities for inspiration in the built landscape when we're returning plants. So on the right-hand side, you see a meadow, which consists of native grasses and those flowering forbs that come up at different times of year. And then on the left-hand side is an example of a quite harsh environment in the built environment at a local elementary school, where we've incorporated native plantings that look similar to the meadow. And they can take the heat and they can take some of the salt on the sidewalks, unfortunately, and so forth. So there's a grass there with a native sunflower and then the purple mist flower at the bottom. This is a garden on the pathway, a residence garden, and this is what it looks like in the fall with those beautiful blooming asters and the goldenrods. And then
I can't get a picture.
I always like to show what these same landscapes look like in winter. And so this is that very same landscape.
Oh,
We're trying to encourage people to leave the seed heads and to leave the stems for the stem nesting bees and for cover for the microbes and the wildlife that are in the soil beneath. So this might be different for some people, but it's beautiful and it's textural and it has movement and structure for winter. This is a before and after picture of a resident landscape, just to emphasize the beauty of our native plantings in fall, our wonderful spice bush and our sumac, along with those wonderful asters, and the concept of leaving those leaves and what, really a conservation landscape can look like in terms of flipping that cultural lens that we're used to. And so then I'll just finish up with a few pictures of other pollinator pathway gardens in our area. This is a traffic island that I take care of, what it looks like in summer, and that same traffic island in the fall. This is a train station garden that doubles as a monarch way station. So as people are heading to the train, they're seeing this garden and hopefully absorbing the message there. This is the entry garden to a local dog park that's was designed as a wildlife and respite garden, but also is on the Pollinator Pathway. This is a church courtyard that was converted with native plantings in the center and along the edge there. And this is a local cemetery, which is one of our largest green spaces. This is their natural burial area that they plant with all native plantings. And they were very interested in being on the pathway to demonstrate their commitment to environmental values and their role in ecological landscape practices in our area, avoiding pesticides and so forth. So these are some of the volunteers and the people that are on our pathway. And as Donna mentioned, while we're part of the problem, we're also so much part of the solution. And so the return over and over to the landscape, both in planting and stewardship, are what give us all hope and that sense of community and excitement about being part of the Pollinator Pathway and knowing that so many other people around the country and the world are working on the same thing. So I'm really excited to be here tonight, and I will turn it back to Donna so that we can learn more from others and hear more stories.
Thank you. Thank you. It's just remarkable how much has happened in your community. So I'm really, really impressed. It's great. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Carol Alper. And Carol is the chair of the Pollinator Pathway Cape Cod. So she's coastal Massachusetts, a different environment, a master gardener, and admitted to us when we met beforehand that, like everybody, she feels she's learning as she goes. She's moving along the learning curve. So Carol, let me hand it over to you, and we'll tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Not
Not
yet.
yet. Oh, you're not yet, not your slide.
Okay, I shared it and it didn't come up. So give me a second.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Donna. I'm sorry I couldn't bring that up quite quickly. Cape Cod, we stick out into the Atlantic Ocean. We're connected to the mainland by 2 bridges, and we are a zone 6 to 7B. The area closest to the bridges is colder, and it gets warmer as you go out into the more narrow areas. Cape Cod is a tourist destination. Our population triples in the summer from the year-round residents. And it's a great opportunity for us to talk to people from all over the place, all over the country and all over the world, about pollinators. We started out, we started out as a group of 9 organizations and 13 individuals. It was the height of COVID, and a few of us were working on cleaning up a park where there were a lot of invasive plants. And it was an outdoor activity, and people were saying, well, what can we do next? And somebody said, there's this group called the Pollinator Pathway. So we looked into it, and we found out, which was a good way to start, is that there was a website that we could launch on pretty easily, and we could put together some materials. So a lot of the initial work that you have to do to start a pathway, it was easy for us to do that. And we decided that we would talk to individuals, different groups, and try to get them to join the pathway with us. I do not have a picture of our map, but when we first started this, I believe we had 3 butterflies. We now have over 200 butterflies, and we're working on covering the entire Cape from the tip of Provincetown to Sandwich and Falmouth. We're determined to get that entire map covered with butterflies. We decided when we started to keep our message simple. We asked people to add native plants, subtract lawn, reduce their use of chemicals, and leave the leaves in the fall. We felt that talking to people one-on-one, if we kept our message simple, it was easier for people to get on board with what we were trying to do. But surprisingly, people gravitated to it. We didn't have to persuade too hard. So we're now up to 36 organizations. We have most of the garden clubs on the Cape have joined us, most of the conservation trusts, some progressive nurseries that are promoting native plants, and progressive landscapers who are doing the same. And then a host of other organizations that are concerned with the environment of Cape Cod. Our environment here is very fragile. I mean, we are a big sandbar. Our water supply is fragile, and we have to take care of this environment. It's a very fragile landscape that has to be preserved. There is a tremendous amount of conservation land on the Cape, but right now a lot of it is being overrun by invasive plants. So we're working now with the conservation trust organizations to see if more native plants can be put in and the invasives can be cleaned up. So when we started, we looked around for organizations we knew, and we knew that there were some native gardens planted already, and we talked to them to get them to join the pathway. When people join our pathway, we provide them with a packet of information, with the logo, with a plant list that's specific to Cape Cod. So we try to get people jump-started with what they need to go talk to other people, because this really is networking. This is getting one person, one group to talk to another group. I'm going to talk about some of these gardens quickly. The Association to Preserve Cape Cod, they do a lot of environmental work. They are trying to preserve our water supply and our environment. They have a great website, and they do a lot of really good work. And they planted their building, their office building, with a native garden. We tell people that these gardens that I'm going to talk about are all available to the public. People can go look at them, go try to learn from them. So we're encouraging people to learn from these gardens. The Nauset Garden Club has been maintaining this wildflower garden at the Museum of Natural History for 35 years. It has a wonderful selection of wildflowers, but now they're adding more native wildflowers. And this garden is also labeled with all the plants so people can see individual plants and what they look like. The Audubon Society in Wellfleet, they have had a native garden for many years. This garden does change over the years. They do change the plantings, and people don't walk into it. They kind of walk around it. and they're doing a lot to educate people. That's a wonderful wildlife sanctuary with wonderful hiking trails, and it draws a lot of visitors from all over. So it's a very good demonstration garden. In the town of Chatham, there was a building that was built in the 1800s. It became the headquarters. It's the Mayo House. It became the headquarters for the Chatham Conservation Trust. And it started out with grass in front, and now it's been replanted with a native garden. The Harwich Garden Club, which was one of our early members, they maintain properties all over Harwich. This Thompson's Field is 57 acres, another area where people go hiking and walking, and they've planted a native garden there. This is a small garden in the town of Orleans, where the Orleans Improvement Association put in a new walkway. Started out, it wasn't all native plants, but a few of us were involved in that organization. And when things died off or the bunnies ate them, we replanted them. The bunnies still eat some natives, but we're working on that problem. In the town of Hyannis, if people don't know, that's the major area where all the ferries go to Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. The Business Association approached us, and there are 100 planters along Main Street, a big tourist attraction, and they decided last year to plant them all with native plants. Many of them have survived because they were perennials, and they're revitalizing those planters this year. And it's a beautiful display. During the Hydrangea Festival, which does take place on Cape Cod each year, the master gardeners act as docents on Main Street and walk people around and show them what's in these planters and talk to them about it. So it's become an attraction on Main Street in one of the busier towns on Cape Cod. And there are 4 new gardens that we've been talking to people about, and you can see these are in their very, very early stages, but these are also participating members. The Nauset Garden Club, the Master Gardeners, and the Orleans Improvement Association did a project. The Wellfleet Garden Club did a project on their Rhode Islands. The Sandwich Garden Club got a grant and has planted the visitor center, again, attracting tourists in the town of Sandwich with a new native garden. And the Orleans Conservation Trust is on one of the main highways, Route 28, and they replanted their front entrance with a new garden. As you can see, these are all in their very early stages. Hope to show pictures next year when they're more grown in. So what have we accomplished? We were what we were trying to do was talk to organizations and get organizations to join with us, share information. We do put out a newsletter. We are trying to get each organization to carry the message. You know, you can multiply your message when you get other people involved. So we're trying to make it easy for other people to do this. We've got the Master Gardener organization involved in speaking engagements. We did get a non-binding resolution in the town of Orleans where they committed to plant all future plantings with native plants. We've shared that with these other organizations. Now the town of Sandwich is trying to do a similar thing. We're speaking at various places. We're participating in events. We're going to farmers markets. We're setting up tables at things. And we're just a bunch of people. It's just trying to multiply the effect of getting Cape Cod covered with thousands of butterflies. And with that, I'll turn it back to Donna.
Thank you, Carol. It just shows the power of groups that can come together and work together, and you're going to have Cape Cod covered with butterflies. If it isn't by the end of the summer, it will be shortly. So that was really great. Next, we're going to hear from Susan King in Central Ohio. Licking County is east of Columbus, and I believe it's the home of Denison University, Granville, Ohio, and not exactly the plains, but a partial eastern temperate forest, and certainly ready for conversion to the pollinator pathway. So Susan, do you want to get started here?
Great, thank you, Donna. Yes, so coming to you live from Central Ohio. For those not familiar with, I know there's folks from all over the country, just a little orientation. Yeah, east of Columbus, Licking County, soon to be home of Intel, which is locating a giant semiconductor plant and is bringing with it a lot of development to our little county here east of Columbus. Local developers are calling us the new Silicon Heartland. All the big tech companies are locating here on the western part of the county, and yeah, it's sort of it's rolling. I grew up in Northwest Ohio, where it's super flat. Here and is more like the foothills to the Appalachians, so it's rolling hills, but previously forest. Newark is the county seat. The county overall has a population of about 180,000 people. And yes, home to Denison University, my alma mater. So Pollinator Pathway, just to give a little kind of origin story, and our town, a college town, was getting ready to unveil a public art installation here on the main drag in our downtown. And so it was covered up with this tarp, and there was much anticipation, and it was leaked out that it was going to be butterflies. And I was walking with a number of kids in our 4-H club, and we saw these beds here on the left, and I'm like, oh my, these look horrible. This cannot stand. I was like, if this is going to be a butterfly themed little pocket park, there's not a single plant here that would support a butterfly. It was mostly thistles and daylilies and weeds. And so that sprung us into action, and our 4-H club looked to adopt this little pocket park and showed a little love. And so this is really how it began, of just one little kind of small pocket park in our downtown that we planted entirely with native plants, all with child labor of the 4-H club. But I gotta hand it to them. They went, because our town is highly zoned. It's a historic town that is notorious for all of its regulations. The kids presented it to the village government, went before council members. I went before the owner of the property and presented it. And anyway, it was a big focal point in our community. There's a few of the adorable smiling faces, including my son here, who helped make that happen. So that happened last September, I guess it was. And like a lot of people, we were inspired by Doug Tallamy's work and books. And I had a funny sidebar that like, I had forced my husband and son to watch one of his lectures on YouTube as a family, and then joked, and my husband, who works at the university, is like, wow, he's a really good communicator on scientific, not all lectures are. And so I was like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if he came to Denison? He's like, yeah, I'll see if he can come. And so literally the next day he reached out, and our little college town welcomed Doug Tallamy to a talk and public lecture in December. But what was really neat about this opportunity was the number of local organizations that came together to host him and offer a series of events. So it was not just a one and done lecture and everyone goes home. We had a luncheon with local landscape professionals. We had a really impactful kind of walk and talk through the Denison Biological Reserve, where we came away with an overwhelming feeling of dread with all the invasives that are plaguing this jewel of our community. But anyway, and his public lecture, which brought 600 people, which again, our town is small. So that was a huge event. And so everyone, like, you couldn't walk around our downtown without people buzzing about how energized and excited they were. Like, we've all seen him, or if not live, read his books, or, know that passion that he stokes. And so we had this committee that had brought him together, then said, okay, now what? What's next? Because we focused all these weeks and months on preparing for his visit. And so I, as Michelle earlier mentioned, like saw a webinar where Pollinator Pathway was mentioned. And I was like, hey, this is kind of a neat framework. I'd love to be able to continue to have these various local organizations work together and collaborate. And have kind of some joint events. And so thus the Pollinator Pathway and Licking County was born. So while most of us are concentrated in Granville, there are a number of organizations across the county. Thus we decided to go on a county level pathway, but here I won't read them all here. But these are the organizations that are currently involved, and a big tip of the hat truly to the libraries. They've been an incredible ally. As well as the land trust. So we have kind of a steering committee that meets with representatives from those various organizations. And then I helped put together a very basic website, but one that we wanted to, while we could have a page on the kind of the network or the national organizations, we wanted to be able to update it regularly and have a lot of our partner events listed and be able to edit. So this is actually a Google site, which is free. And if you're used to Google Docs, it's a really easy way to create a website and without monthly hosting fees. So for those communities that are considering creating their own Pollinator Pathway, I give it 2 thumbs up in terms of ease of use for platforms. I think I paid $15 for the lickingpollinatorpathway.org name. So it was really easy. So just a quick little pro tip. Some of the activities we're still very new. This all came together literally this spring. So we've been active, however, in all of the major community events. One of the most popular and what we've also done too is the various partner organizations that have events, we cross promote them, and so call them Pollinator Pathway. So even though we're not organizing them all, we had, especially in April for Native Plant Month, there was, I don't know, 24 or 2 events. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Sorry. One of the more popular events that we did was our town had a 43023 day on 4/30/23. It's like this. Our zip code would also match the date of the year, and through this big party, and our 4-H club grew milkweed plants from seed. You can see they kind of sort of overseeded them here in this little cell pack. They eventually divided them up and we gave them out on that day. So they were adorable, of like just shouting from the street corner of free milkweed plants. And that was a really great way to engage people. We did have seed packets that we had, but I find that people are intimidated if you're not a gardener, and people have scattered seeds and had trouble growing it. But by providing these little baby milkweed plants, people felt empowered to be like, I can do that. I can plant that. So they set up, of course, in the pollinator, in the little butterfly pocket park, which had the newly installed Pollinator Pathway sign, as well as some very creative paper mache caterpillars and chrysalis that the kids helped make. And then finally, this is actually from today's paper. And here's the like old school actual paper copy. We were featured just a few weeks ago. We planted a new Pollinator Pathway garden at our local library, and the adjacent Robbins Hunter Museum had a small bed there, but our 4-H club planted there and was photographed, and it just hit the papers today for Pollinator Week. So anyway, we're still very new, but what's really exciting is that from the little garden that we started, it's really starting to spread, and multiple other churches on the street I just learned of one today that is going to be doing a pollinator garden. So we're just thrilled to be part of a larger network and something so positive, and that people are like literally raising their hands saying like, how can I help? And so it's been a really rewarding and impactful few months for us. So thanks for letting us share a little bit and letting me brag, especially my cutie little son here, who was featured on the front page, which he was pretty excited about.
Fantastic. I mean, it is contagious. The same thing happened in Connecticut. It was only going to be in one town. And before we even could blink, the town to the north of us, the town to the east of us, the town to the west of us said, hey, we want to do this too. So it's just inspiring to hear the energy, and it's great. Thanks for your story, Susan. And next, we're going to go all the way out to the West Coast and hear from Barb Rumer in Bend, Oregon. Again, a completely different environment, high desert, right, Barb? And I'm sure you're going to have some of the same stories of inspiration and contagion and community building, but maybe a little bit different plant palette, I'm guessing, than the rest of us. So just look forward to hearing.
Okay, so yes, we are. Bend is high desert. It's Eastern Oregon, 4,000 feet elevation gain, and 12 inches of rain a year average. So way different habitat than everybody else is used to, but a very special biome for pollinator plants. And so part of my talk is a little bit about what we've done. Part of it is the organizational changes over the last couple of years, because if you're all listening and you want to do things, then you know, there's always organizational challenges. So I'm screen sharing, right? Is that working?
Yep, we see you.
We see your screen.
Okay. Okay. So so yes, we're in Bend, Oregon. Yes, we do use the Pollinator Pathway butterfly from National. And yes, we have a couple of places in town that sell it. And our mission is to, which we worked on, is to create and connect pesticide-free habitat for imperiled native pollinators. And our founder, who was Basie Klopp, so hi Basie if you're listening, was 3 years ago incensed, like many of you are, about the pollinator decline, but instead of being negative, she wanted to do something positive. And for her, it was the urgency not to create a immediate organization. The urgency was to put plants in the ground to help imperil pollinators. But she did use the Pollinator Pathway model to guide and be time effective. And the support from others coalesced because she ended up channeling a huge desire to help. And even in the first year, she got 1,000 plants in a free plant giveaway. So she advocated to cities and parks where public gardens could be planted and seen by others as demonstration gardens. And she followed the principle of use other people's money. So for all of you who understand that, I think. Then in 2022, Basie had to move to San Diego area. So instead of letting her program vanish, a small group of us decided not to let the momentum of pollinators go away, but we formed an informal group to continue. It was basically a steering committee with ad hoc. But then as we grew over the last year, we took her general principles, but then organizationally developed a strategic plan, finally did the paperwork for our current nonprofit so we could actually have a bank account, go figure, and apply for grants. So our major strategic plan, see if this fits any of you, is to strategic plans are more plants in the ground, become a resource for education and information, grow our involvement with others, but also put a business plan and organizational structure into place. So as such, yes, our success has been in partnering with others, partnering for plant locations, partnering for funding, partnering for outreach. And so plant locations, we partnered with Parks and Rec District and City of Bend for public plant locations, 6 different demonstration gardens. We partnered with the Water Conservation Department to plant native, which is city, to plant natives in the street parkways. And where before it was just sod, we partnered with the County Soil and Water Conservation District because they get grants, they got the money, and then we did the planting. So that was very efficient. Instrumental in our success was the help of Pollinator Pathway Northeast. So Pollinator Pathway was doing what Basie was passionate about, and Donna let us help use their support network, name, logo, grant information, brochures. So we didn't have to do that. We could hit the ground running. And recently, Donna helped with generous information on their experience in getting formally set up fiscal sponsorship and applying for 501. So all of that takes time, and us working together is invaluable. We maintain partnerships in 6 different public pollinator gardens. And one thing we did was we have a specific volunteer garden steward to manage each of those gardens, to communicate with the board. And this was a new plan just to help organize workload. We approach schools to give them technical support for school pollinator gardens and point them to organizations for grant. So again, we're trying to be the technical person, not always just the digging in the dirt person. And currently we will be a technical advisor for a pollinator garden at an upcoming new affordable housing project. So, lots of things happening. So yes, partnering, use other people's money. And this was a brilliant strategy, which we adopted. So Bend Waterwise program, the city is very big into teaching people to save water, do drip, tear out sod, all those things, and as such, they matched $4,500 to a total of $9,000. So we could buy 2,000, and the other part was a donation from a local native plant nursery. So 2 totally different organizations, $9,000, and we could buy 2,000 plants for a free giveaway, which was very successful. We distributed 6 plants per family group, and obviously encouraged native education, water saving, pollinator health, all the normal. Use other people's money. Endangered Species Coalition does have money for plants, and we helped a school receive $1,000 for many plants in their school pollinator garden. So we advise, they work a great combo. And our local visitor bureau gave out a grant for dark sky ecotourism. And then we were a part of that for developing a night pollinator garden, go moths. Those using other people's money instead of us always fundraising is fabulous. Oops. Another strategy is grow the involvement with others. We created a list of current and prospective strategic partners. The most important people who support our work, either financially in advocacy. Our contact idea always was, how can we work together to support our mutual goals? So yes, government agencies, there's a worthy environmental in that helps with really big restoration projects. And they're a technical source for us and for plants. And Parks and Rec obviously is strategic for us in funding for plants. And actually they gave us a little bit of money for plants and for signs. So we also created a list of all the other groups in town that we want to have contacts with, retail stores, large environmental nonprofits. And so we're continuing to be in contact with them. We also contacted all the normal national and state environmental groups like you all do, Xerces, National Pollinator Pathway, Oregon Bee City programs, the state extension services, Beyond Pesticides. I mean, and you probably know those, but having those resources for research or giving out information to others is always stuff we can use. Yes, so partnering with people, partnering with others in outreach. We want to educate, advocate, and be a trusted resource. So highlights of this year is, yes, we did a new website. And as you can see here, this is one of our star things of this last year. One of our fabulous people on our board created this whole Central Oregon native pollinator plant list. So it's for us specifically, because so many resources are for wet side and don't apply to us. So as you can see, lots of columns, colors of the you know, what month, the color of the flower, and what sort of pollinator visits them. It just is a incredibly great, and this goes on for like 4 pages. So this is just 1 page. So that was a real highlight of this year. Whoop, sorry. Ah, I missed. Well, how do I go back?
If you reshare your screen, you can use the arrows on your keyboard.
Well, right.
Or if you click on the slide and press from current slide, that will also get you there.
I can't.
You can do play from beginning, or you can go to the left column and pick
Yeah,
the
just a
slide.
minute. I'll just there you go.
There you go.
Okay, I'll have to mess with that. Okay, so we're always, another handout was on plant natives, how to plant native plants, including mycorrhizae. We have special handouts for how to deal with pesticides or using organic alternatives. We're now using QR codes to save money and to point people to our website where there are all these resources. And, you know, we're developing educational signs for 2 of our demonstration gardens. People pass by these gardens all the time, didn't even know that they were a pollinator garden. So we're doing that. And obviously we're always looking for pollinator research to put in our newsletters or on our Facebook site to pass on to people for that sort of thing. Successes. We've had lots of successes this year in, in events. We're always busy. We're always having tabling events with with neighborhood associations and Earth Day and other things. We'll have had 10 different tabling events this year. We have community plantings in public spaces, we'll have seed collection and packaging in the fall with training. And our big, yes, 2 years ago, we had Doug Talamay Zoom. But this year, our big kind of event is with the Oregon bee health guy in all of Oregon, and he's gonna come down to Bend and talk about Oregon bees. And we're always passing on webinars on plant health, and a couple of webinars that BASI actually developed have been published and are available for everybody in the library. So our biggest successes this year are we're online to put 3,000 plants in the ground, and our website is complete. So that's a reference material for all of our people. Hundreds of people are starting or expanding their pollinator gardens. And we have I don't have the specific data, but with all our tabling events and people signing on to our website, we know that's happening. We just organizationally, we completed our strategic plan with objectives to keep us online and focused. We're now a nonprofit. We have a marketing plan, and our social media stuff and newsletters are happening. And, we went from just a few people in our newsletter to probably over 600 people on our Facebook link and 300 in our newsletter link. And so we feel like we're doing pretty well for just a couple of year old organization trying to get out the word for what we do. So there you go.
Fantastic. You've just grown so fast, but in a way, it's just such an exciting thing, and people just want to know what they can do too and join in. And we've heard that from everybody. So at this point, Louise, have you gathered a few questions?
Yes, we have lots and lots of questions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I want to, hi, everybody. Thank you to the speakers. So that was so inspiring and so different and great to think about all of this happening across the country. So I'm going to just say some of these go through some of these questions and invite you, if it's your question, to unmute and add to this or start the conversation here. The first one actually was emailed to us by Judy Mihuk. I don't know if I'm saying that name wrong, but I've been talking to Judy on email the last few days, and I know that she is near Pittsburgh. And Judy has 3 questions. So Judy, I don't know if you're here, but if you are, you can unmute and add to this. But the first one is, how important is it to get a page up for my town on the main website? We also have Jana Hogan here, who is our webmaster and is going to be better at answering a lot of these questions, maybe that have to do with things like that. So I invite you, Jana, to add to this. But I just asked the panelists how important you think having a web page is. I don't know if any of you guys have thoughts on that, Susan or Carol or.
Well,
Or
we're using what you provided, but now I'm seeing other people have started other web pages. Maybe it's something that needs to be discussed, but I mean, we've been happy with what we've had. But as we're expanding, I'm seeing some things here that I'm learning about.
Yeah, Jana, do you want to talk about like different things that different towns do?
Yeah, I know as I think we've discussed today, it's, the way this process has grown. And in some areas, like Susan's saying, they're a county. I see Bethany Berry here from Vermont. She's Addison County, Vermont. Some places are growing in a county. Carol, Cape Cod, and there's so much more going on than we can do on that one page. I feel like we're going to end up needing to, our goal is just to help get the word out to people and share the work that you're doing on the ground. And so every day managing the website, we are working towards just getting those stories out, getting examples of projects, that have worked. If you want to have your own website, that's great. We'll just link to it, just like we've done with many towns throughout the country. But I do think it's really important to have a web page, have a web presence, have even a Facebook or social media presence, because a lot of incredible work is being done. And, our goal, our job is to outreach and share it and let people know about the work that's being done. And hopefully they will replicate it in their own towns and counties and cities and neighborhoods.
Yeah, and if people in your town are wondering about it or interested, they can find you that way. It's a good, because we get a lot of emails like, is anything happening in my town? And if they can look and see you there, they can just find you directly. Jana, the next question we were kind of talking about before everybody signed on. Judy's question, how do people keep track of who has signed up? And Michelle and Carol do it different ways. So we wanted you to talk about the best way.
I think there are a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, we have, or on the national level, we have Join the Pollinator Pathway. So when people join, they give their address, and if you are organizing an event, sending out an email newsletter, anytime you're doing that, all you need to do is send an email to our general mailbox, info@pollinator-pathway.org. And we can share with you the people who've signed up within your town community. And I think, Susan, I started sending you all of Ohio, because you were the first, organizer to sign on. I was like, hey, I'm just going to send you everybody, and you can determine whether or not that's going to be a good reach for you or not. And I believe we're doing the same with Addison County and many other places. So,
So that's probably the best way, is to go through you, like everything, Jana.
We'll go through us, and then we'll add to your list. But if you feel like, because some other places are collecting their own signups, which is great, but we hope and encourage those organizers to also have people join the national movement, because there are a lot of there's a lot to learn from our newsletter. We send it out 4 times a year. We don't actually send a lot of emails out. I think we're really respectful about that, but we do send out notes when it's relevant to our audience. So.
And there's one more question from Judy, which is a good one. What strategies have been most successful for helping folks wean themselves from pesticides? So people probably have lots to say about that, but I wanted to ask Barb Rumor. I know from emailing with Judy that she is in a homeowners association, and she was trying to get the homeowners association to change their pesticide use. And Barb had mentioned what has happened in Oregon around this. So do you want to?
Yeah, there has been, anyway, a state law was passed last year with a lot of background and a couple of years work before that, where it's state law that any homeowner association that actually takes care of your front lawn or all your lawns is now, if the owners themselves want to opt out of pesticides being used on their property, then there's just a notification thing, and so the landscaper has to not put pesticides on your particular property in that HOA. So, and I can send people specific information on how that, but that was a big groundbreaking law to help push HOAs to actually start thinking about what their landscaper does. So yes.
And I think that works with individuals as well. That's the advice that I always give people when they ask that question, is ask what is being used, and then you can look it up and read about the effects on pollinators and human health and pets and all of those things, and share that with them, because I think a lot of people just don't realize, what is going down. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add on that. Or I will go on to the next question. Julianne Banker, how can Pollinator Pathway native plants be promoted on a local level? What are best ways to promote this in my town and even elementary schools? Does Pollinator Pathway provide introductory plants to get people started? I'm thinking of my abundance of black-eyed Susans in my own yard. Additionally, to get fellow townies to give up their perfectly green lawn, chemical-laden lawns. Thank you. I don't know, ideas from from panelists on how best to promote native plants locally. Michelle, do you want to chime in on that?
Sure. I think, for us, it was really doing the webinars to talk about the beauty, and really focusing on beauty appeals to people as a sometimes even a side of the function, and returning or showing pictures that demonstrate that. So, and the plant giveaways were also very effective for us, as others mentioned as well. And then just partnering, like everyone has said, partnering with an organization that can get it going locally.
Yeah, so the Pollinator Pathway, the national organization, we don't have a means for providing plants like that, but locally, if you can get a local grant or partner with the town or a landscape, a nursery or something, you can usually get plugs or seeds to give away in some way. Okay, I'm going to kind of race through these. This is from Christine Kulikowski. Many of our native gardens use shredded tires on their pathways. Could organizations like this one spread the word that hundreds of people are allergic to rubber and latex and cannot walk on these trails? And tires also leach toxins into the soil, which is completely true and is a really good point that we focus on pesticides, but obviously, like all chemicals, like those into crumb rubber are bad for wildlife and water and pollinators. So that's a good thing for us to add, I think, to our message. I don't know if anybody has anything else to add on that. It's a good idea. And then Marian Yaglinski says, my biodiversity group is working on securing a rights of nature law for our community because we are having a problem with residents using mosquito spray companies that cause drift and kill our pollinators. So this is a huge problem everywhere. I don't know if anybody, Barb, you're shaking, you're but nodding, and you're on the coast. Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, drift always is a problem, and I'm not on the coast, I'm in the mountains, but
I'm sorry, I was thinking
drift
Carol.
is a problem. Drift is always a problem, and one thing that I try to do is, and several communities, several big cities in Oregon have done this, is the city actually passed a resolution that the city would not use neonicotinoids. And so that would be an advocacy thing to consider. So if the city or the Parks and Rec is not using neonicotinoids, and you can either get them to say that, and or you can get them to pass a resolution, then that just gives impetus that it's not the thing to do.
Yeah, we did that in the city that I live in, Norwalk, Connecticut. Stamford, Connecticut also has passed a no pesticides ordinance on municipal property, as in hopes of like leading the way for the public. Yeah, it is a huge problem. And I've seen signs from somewhere on the Pollinator Pathway that says that were these big signs that said spraying for mosquitoes kills pollinators. So I think that's just, more education that's needed. A lot of great works and very inspiring comments here. What's the best approach to convince town officials to create a pollinator policy of planting natives? Does anybody have success with convincing their town that they want to share?
Well,
Yeah.
on Cape Cod, we went to one town. We had it was a non-binding resolution because we got pushback if it was binding. So we gave them a little bit of an out, but they basically agreed to consider native plantings for all future plantings in the town. We can share that with anybody who wants to. I mean, we have a copy of it. Other towns have picked up on it. A binding resolution would be stronger and more effective, but sometimes you have to take baby steps to get people to get on board with a program.
Yeah, I don't know if Holly Cosette is on here tonight. Holly, if you're there, you could unmute. Holly passed an amazing native plant ordinance in Newtown, Connecticut, or helped pass. And that is on our website. I really recommend checking out the ordinance and resolutions page on the Pollinator Pathway website, because you can see what all these different towns have done along these lines locally. And then in the same breath, if you have an ordinance like that you've passed, Carol, or a resolution, send it to us so we can post it so people can, see it and pick one that might work for their town. More questions here for you, Carol. Cape Cod, I'm wondering, this is from Lisa Summers. I'm wondering what impact this has had on individual homeowners. Are you seeing lawns being given up? Also, what was the leadership structure when you started this? Was there a committee that made overtures to the organizations?
There is a steering committee of about 13 people representing various organizations. I'd love to say we're seeing a reduction in lawns, but individuals are doing it. We still have a lot of summer residents who come here and they have their properties maintained and they have big, beautiful lawns. It's an education process. You have to work with people and get them to understand why those big, beautiful lawns aren't such big, beautiful lawns. But I know of homeowners that are reducing their lawn size. We know of several examples of that, but it's not happening fast enough.
Yeah, there is a comment from Marie Chiappo. She says, I'm a native plant designer on Cape Cod, and yes, I could make a living solely sheet mulching ramboard on lawns covered with 3 inches of leaf mulch. Homeowners' properties, huge demand for lawn reduction. So hooray, that's fantastic. And then there's another question, Becky, Cape Cod planter. This is from Becky Collins. Carol, this is from Becky Collins. It was beautiful. Do you, Carol, have a list of the plants in the container? It flashed too quickly. Do you have something we could share it with the group after?
I think you're asking about the hyannis planters.
Yeah.
I don't have a list in front of me, but I think we can get a list of what was planted and post it on our website.
Okay, yeah. There's there are 2 questions. 2 people want that list. So Nancy Geges also would like that. So we can actually send that out to everybody who registered if you just send it to one of us.
Okay.
Okay, Lisa Summers, I want to see this kind of project in my town. Are any of the speakers open to being contacted to discuss some details regarding strategy? If you are, you could just put your contact in the chat, maybe for Lisa. That would be great. And then Lisa, you can also just email us at info@pollinatorpathway.org and we can connect you to people for sure. And then let's see, Kristen Distante, one of our biggest challenges is getting our hands on native plants. Advice? Did anybody want to chime in on that? It is the challenge. Yes, Susan.
I just in this area though, I feel like I've had good luck with the Eco 59 project. And I understand this is not everyone's in the 59 region, but getting those plugs starting from seed is fantastic, but you really do get a jump if you can start from plugs. And I don't know. I feel like we've had some really good luck with that locally, getting some nice, not enough species, but some really great Eco 59 plugs.
And that project came out of the need that the Pollinator Pathway was creating for native plants. So we got together with local organic farm association and created a new resource. But Susan, I thought, were you going to add to that?
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, we've had some luck. Granted, this is on a very small scale of doing winter sowing methods. So utilizing milk jugs, which is a really low cost, easy way to grow the plugs from seed if you have the time. We did a number of winter sowing workshops, and literally so many people had milk jugs full of stuff, and some of which are now, you know, pretty decent size to be able to transplant out. But it's surprisingly easy, and one that people were really receptive to. So,
And cheaper, I
a lot
think.
cheaper. Yeah, when you start adding up, even with plugs, it's cheaper than the landscape size plants. But when you're doing anything of any scale, it's like, oh wow, yeah, you need to find cost-effective ways to fill that space.
And some groups that are doing this work have done nurseries, have done plant sales as a way to both fill that need and also make some money. So especially for trees and shrubs, that can be a possibility if you are brave enough.
Yeah, but I think that also identifies another place where if the national group could help provide some of those, you know, particularly in the winter months when people can't be out in their gardens, to be able to get some additional information to make that kind of winter sowing accessible. And
yeah, actually the winter sowing blog that we did this year, Jana, I think it had more clicks than anything we had ever published. So yeah, it was definitely, that's a great idea. Okay, I'm going to keep going down because we have so many questions. Meadowscape, this is from Barbara Passero. Meadowscaping for Biodiversity in Waltham, Mass. Has a two-part mission. One, environmental education program that empowers youth to plant pollinator gardens and meadows. Two, meadowscaping business, plant gardens and meadows for customers. We have developed creative games and activities for pollinators in a pickle Jeopardy game. So yeah, so she's just letting us know what those guys are up to. I don't know if you're here, Barbara. You want to say more about that? Oh, hi. You could unmute if you want. Do you see your mute button?
Oh, there's unmute.
There you go.
Okay, great. Well, it's really an exciting program, but it's like, even though it's 10 years old, it's like in its infancy compared to what Barbara Rumor told us. I don't have anything as great. I mean, I have customers that I sell meadows to, and I have high school students who put in the meadows, but I don't have the influence that Barbara does. I mean, people here in Waltham are very much tied to their lawns. I have 5 or so customers I put in gardens for this year, but it's nothing compared to all the lawns. I mean, some people, the bigger the house, the bigger the lawn.
It's a slow process of change, I think.
But you know, I feel bad because I want to have it move faster because I know what the world is, what's happening in the world, and
yeah,
but it's very hard. So this is a math we do for our education project.
That's excellent.
This is it's a swallowtail and with the phlox on the side.
I love that.
I see it's a double mask for 2 people at the same time.
Very cool. The paper mache monarchs, Susan, on your slide got a lot of comments as well. Those are cool.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Rob Sauerhoff says, what about working with your local ag extension master gardener program? That I know that lots of groups do that. We definitely do that. Rob, just reading your comment there. I know locally we work with master gardener programs on some Pollinator Pathway projects that I work on ongoing. So that is a great idea. Is that what you were going to say? I see you have your hand raised.
Be silent.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a great
Can you hear me?
resource. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just finished the Master Gardener program, and I did a lot of investigation about pollinator pathway stuff. My property is on the pollinator pathway, but and looking through things, the state of Connecticut, as well as Massachusetts and many other states, have huge amounts, as well as the ag extension programs in most of the land grant universities have amazing amounts of information about pollinator pathway, native plantings, things like that. Oregon has a fantastic native, a master gardener program that focuses on native plants as well. So, the information is there. It's just a matter of having the initiative to go find it and look for it. It's really quite incredible how much information really is already out there.
Yeah, it's cool. And the Master Gardener interns have to do community service projects. So they're good people to get out there planting things, in my experience. Bethany Barry says, how about a license plate decal? Ask me about my pollinator garden. And Donna, do you want to talk about that? We have that's come up a few times.
Well, we've looked into, at least in the state of Connecticut, in getting a specialty plate, and it's a process of pre-selling hundreds, which I think we could do, and then the state will then pick that up and say, okay, obviously there's an interest, and we'll start manufacturing them. As far as a decal, I don't really know about a decal, but I think that's a really intriguing idea. I mean, we've got our purple butterfly, and that's the signal across the country of the pollinator pathway. So just seeing that, driving around on the roads, might be really something we could do.
And Bethany, we are setting up a new store, right, Jana? We are going to have T-shirts and hats, and it's coming. So maybe decals can go into that store.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
We have on the Cape, we have a car decal that can go on your window. It's small,
Cool.
but we did produce that. So
Very cool. Mary Hogue, who's on our board, has a great question. Does anyone have pollinator curriculum in their schools that is NGSS aligned? So for the science standards, we're trying to do that in Fairfield. We actually are working with a school in Norwalk where I am. And it's part of the curriculum, but is anybody else doing that? Because we would love to know.
Xerxes has a lot of good curriculum for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barbara, you as well?
I have a 12 chapter curriculum that's coordinated with the national standards. And we just did gardens. The teachers did the pollinators in their classroom, but we did a garden with two groups of second graders. Well, two different schools with second graders. We built the pollinator curriculum. I got a grant, and from the CDQ Foundation, and we had hour sessions because the kids are busy in school, but they came down and flooded us, and we got the kids to dig plants and plant the plants. So that was really successful. The kids loved it.
That's cool. Maybe we'll follow up with you, Barbara, because I think that's a resource we want to have on the website, is what school curriculum is out there. We're trying to collect that. So we'll ask you about that after.
Good.
And this is a good question from Tom King. How are folks thinking about climate change and the migration of natives to new areas? How to plan ahead for these changes? Does anybody want to talk about that? I mean, it's a planting question of bloom time being off from our pollinators as they emerge. We know is a problem. Or I don't know, Tom, do you want to comment on that if you're here still? It's a challenge, I would say. I guess we're thinking, Donna, just recently we're trying to decide which native trees to plant, and sugar maples came up, and Donna was like, well, it's getting too warm for them. So, we shouldn't put those in. So I guess that's some of the thinking, is how we change what we plant.
Louise, I'd like to comment on that.
Yeah.
I encourage people still to plant natives that are regionally native in their ecoregion. I mean, you might think more southerly, including species that are more southerly, but still within your ecoregion, because I hate to see us accelerate a process by leaving plants out that we're not sure about how it's going to play out in the end as the climate changes. And it also might be worth thinking about what kind of planting you're doing. If you're doing a restoration, I think it's important to include locally native plants, especially or in a big natural area, because those are going to reseed, and hopefully some of those, you know, sugar maples will be more heat tolerant going forward in that sort of setting, knowing that we might lose some, but that some are going to, you know, naturally select through genetic diversity to make it. So I always like to be optimistic and still plant what's locally useful to the pollinators at this moment, knowing that we might lose some.
Yeah. Okay. That perfect. That makes total sense. There's another comment on the chat. I don't know if you guys have seen it, that go to celdf.org for information about rights of nature law. I mean, we're all watching the trial, the climate, the kids being suing the state of Montana. I don't know if you guys are watching that, because of the constitution of the state, you know, requiring a healthy environment for people. We're actually working on that issue in Connecticut too. I mean, this is not something we've really focused on broadly at the Pollinator Pathway, but I'm glad it came up here because I think it's a really important thing. I don't know, let us know if you're working on issues like this, because we want the website, right, Jana, to just be a place where we share these ideas and inspire each other. So yeah, keep us updated and send us what you're doing. We'll post it. And then Kristen Distante says, does anyone have a roadmap for setting up a 501c3, tax implications, et cetera? And there's been a lot of discussion under that. And so I think a lot of resources were provided to Kristen, but we just recently did it. So you can also email us. Donna really led the way through that, but we have answers to those questions that we can talk about. I don't know if anybody else has comments on that. It's not that hard. I mean, I guess it's different in different states, but it wasn't that hard. Susan, were you going to say?
Well, I would also encourage people before, it's a lot of work, and there could be benefits by just partnering with one of the other organizations and request that they be a fiscal sponsor. That can be a great way to kind of also, you can, you know, write grants and they be your fiscal sponsor. And that may be a good way to kind of bridge that before going down the path of creating a separate 501c3, because it is a commitment and a lot of time, effort, and sometimes money to set those up. And so if it's really grassroots, sometimes that fiscal sponsor, if you are dealing with any types of quantity of money, that can be a nice alternative.
Yeah, I think that's basically the model for most community pollinator pathways, most towns. And that is how the pollinator pathway itself got started, with a fiscal sponsor. What
That
is
was you, Louise?
that's another organization I'm in was a fiscal sponsor. What is sheet mulching? I don't know. Does anybody else want to answer that? Michelle, do you want to answer that?
Sure, it's sort of a process. If you're going to convert lawn, for example, you mow it real short, lay down somebody mentioned ramboard earlier, like maybe an undyed cardboard or something like that, pile on compost or just a bunch of leaves, wet it down or let the rain wet it, and leave it over time so that you don't have to dig up the grass, that it sort of decomposes in place. And so it's an easy way to do it. I think an even better way to do it, if you can, is to lay down a very thick layer of arborist wood chips, because the wood chips allow the air, the oxygen, and the water better through, but keep the weeds from growing and effectively smother because they don't let the light through, than the cardboard. And so you're not affecting the microorganisms underneath as much, but you have to be willing to pile all those wood chips quite thickly, and possibly remove a few before planting through, or be open to the look of those wood chips going forward as they decompose when you plant right through them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Jackie Algon, also on the national board, says for folks getting started, putting together pollinator packs of seedlings makes it easy for newbies to figure out what to put in their gardens. We've developed 6 packs for sun, part sun, and for shade, part shade, which are sold at their garden club plant sale for $20 a pack, and they sell out. So that's a good tip. And then we just have lots of thank yous. Okay, here's a question from Lisa Keim. How do you define what geographical area your local chapter will be? And that is just completely up to you, because we have neighborhoods within cities, we have whole counties. Sounds like Susan is in charge of all of Ohio, but really it's just the community that you feel connected to and that you have partners in that want to work together, right, Jana and Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah, villages, neighborhoods, towns, yeah, anything. Okay, can we post the Eco 59 link? Yes. Jamie, are you there? Can you do that, or Jana?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then there's just like a lot of good stuff in the chat. The best map to start with that Ptolemy built is here if you want to check that out. Barbara Pesero, we have several gardens, and split the plants to sell along with plants from the Native Plant Trust. So yeah, these are ways to get plants to sell. Just ideas for people. Wild Seed Project offers great advice and seeds in Maine. Kristen Andres says reducing lawn is social change and it can happen. Yay. I think that's absolutely right. It is happening. It's all change is slow, right? Yeah, and someone adds, totally, just need to educate, find the financial benefit to losing the lawn. And that's true. All the money that is sunk into the way lawns are done. We're almost to the end here. I don't want to have us go on too long. We'd have a hard stop at 8, but Kristen says, I have a mini campaign going to talk with nursery managers and encouraging friends to do so, requesting natives every time I go so they start to recognize the need, demand. Absolutely. That's like the most important thing we can do. Like go into your local nursery and just ask, where are your native plants? They need to know that there's demand. And Lee Baldwin says, has anyone mentioned the pollination? And has a link here for purchasing smaller amounts of plugs, online ordering in small amounts. Also, if you're willing to purchase 32 and 50 count trays, you can purchase them from New Moon Nursery in New Jersey and North Creek Nursery in southeastern PA. They're wholesale only. So these are good tips here for where to get native plants. Okay, and Molly Jacobson, we'll do one more thing. Says the best way to mitigate climate effects is promoting connectivity between habitats and greater diversity of native species in those habitats to ensure enough resources and the ability for insects to find those resources, which is what the Pollinator Pathway is about, which I totally agree. Thank you, everybody. I don't want to, there's a few more things here, but I think we needed to stop at 8, and I really appreciate everybody's questions. And
yeah, thank you. That was a great last comment to end on. I mean, we're doing it, and we should all just reach over and pat ourselves on the back because we're changing the world one backyard at a time. And who would have thought? But it is absolutely happening. And I went just as a final word, I stopped at a big garden center here in Connecticut, and I said, well, why aren't you carrying native plants? And she said, well, just wait. Next year is going to be a completely different story. We're switching everything over. So I think we've influenced people in it. We've been patient. It's taken time, but I think the whole thing's going to crack. So, and we did it. So thank you, everybody. This was a great hour and a half. And I'm just so happy you're on the pathway. Let's keep up the good work.
thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you to our speakers.